Help me! He's gonna kill me!
Help me. He's gonna kill me. New York never shuts up at night. Rain, car horns. Somebody always screaming about something, the whole city just rolls along like one giant wall of noise. But that night, the scream coming from the 5th floor of a rundown apartment building in Brooklyn cut right through all of it. Ayana Cole had her back pressed against the bathroom door, staring down at her phone. Her hands were shaking so bad she could barely hit the right buttons. Her brother. She just needed to call her brother. But the number that popped up on the screen wasn't his just 11 digits she didn't recognize. She didn't even stop to think about it. She hit call. On the other side of the door, Raymond kicked it. Once, twice, 3 times. Slow and steady, like he had all the time in the world. Because he did, there was nobody in this building on Ayana's side. From the phone came a low, heavy voice. Just silence. Someone listening without saying a word. Ayana pressed her mouth close and whispered, "Who is this? Is this Marcus?" The voice came back. "No." One word. Ayana's heart dropped straight to the floor. Wrong number, then. Hang up. That's what Ayana said. Right then, the bathroom door shook hard hinges, screaming. The man on the phone spoke quietly. "Who's trying to break that door down?" Not a question. More like he already knew the answer and just needed her to confirm it. Ayana heard herself say it. My ex-boyfriend." A short silence. "Give me your address." Ayana froze. She didn't know this man. He could be dangerous, but somehow his voice scared her less than the footsteps on the other side of that door. She gave him the address. Brooklyn, Martin Street. Building number, apartment number, all of it. The voice said one more thing. "Lock the door. Sit on the floor. Don't move." Then the line went dead. Ayana slid down the wall and sat on the cold tile. She could feel the chill coming up through the floor. Raymond's footsteps stopped for a second, then started again, faster this time. She pulled her knees up to her chest and started counting. 1, 2, 3. She had no idea 10 minutes could feel this long. 7 minutes in, she heard something in the hallway. Raymond's voice spiked up, then went dead quiet. Ayana held her breath. Then came a knock on the bathroom door. Different from before. Careful. Clean. Deliberate. Ayana. Low voice. Heavy voice. The same voice from the phone. Ayana couldn't get her legs to work. "Open the door. It's me." She reached up and grabbed the handle. Her hand was still shaking. The door swung open. The hallway was quiet. Raymond was gone. In his place stood a man in a black coat, tall, broad shoulders, face completely unreadable. But the way he looked down at her wasn't cold. Ayana had the feeling she'd seen those eyes before, somewhere she couldn't quite put her finger on. He spoke first. "You hurt?" She shook her head. His gaze dropped to her wrist. Red. Swollen. Without a word, he reached into his coat, pulled out a handkerchief, and pressed it gently against her wrist. A stranger. A man whose name she didn't know. But his hands didn't shake. That's when Ayana felt the tears trying to come. She pushed them back down. Med school interns don't cry in situations like this. That was her rule. The man said quietly, "You can't stay here tonight. Will you come with me?" She didn't know who he was. She didn't know why he'd come. She just nodded. And that one nod, it turned out, would be both the best and the most dangerous decision of Ayana Cole's life. Nobody knew that yet. His car was black. No license plates. Ayana sat in the passenger seat, watching Brooklyn blur away in the rain while Manhattan's lights came pouring toward them. The man drove the whole way without saying anything. His hands on the wheel were big and steady. Scarred knuckles, old ones. She clocked it with a doctor's eye. He'd been in fights. More than a few. Ayana forced herself to look away. This wasn't the time to be analyzing him. But then her mouth moved on its own. "What's your name?" He took a second. "Woo Jin Kang." Ayana turned the name over in her head. It felt unfamiliar, but also strangely not. "I'm Ayana Cole." "Thanks, and I'm sorry." "I dialed the wrong number." Woo Jin didn't respond. The car dipped into a tunnel. Yellow light flooded the interior and then disappeared. He said short and flat it wasn't a misdial. Ayana opened her mouth to ask what that meant, then stopped. The tunnel ended. Manhattan opened up in front of them. Bright enough to hurt your eyes. The building was right in the middle of Midtown. The second Ayana stepped into the lobby, she stopped walking. Marble floors, floor-to-ceiling glass, staff in uniforms. This wasn't the New York she knew. The elevator had one button. Penthouse. When the doors opened, the whole city lit up behind a wall of glass. Ayana let out a sound before she could stop herself. Woo-jin heard it. For the first time, the corner of his mouth moved just barely, just for a second. Ayana didn't catch it.
Sit down.
Sit down, Woo-jin said. She sat. He went to the kitchen. A few minutes later, a warm mug was set down in front of her. She looked at it. Ginger tea, the kind you give someone when their hands are cold. Ayana's hands had been cold this whole time. How'd you know? She asked. He sat across from her and said, Your hands were turning blue. Ayana looked down at her hands, said nothing. This man noticed things before he said anything about them. He brought a first aid kit, looked at her wrist, reached for the antiseptic. Ayana stretched out her hand. I've got it. I'm a med intern, remember? He glanced at her, then kept the antiseptic and started cleaning the bruise himself, more gently than she expected. Ayana didn't know what to say to that. It didn't hurt. Nothing like when Raymond had grabbed the same spot. Why are you doing it yourself? She asked. He didn't answer, just quietly started wrapping the bandage. I'm responsible for you now. Ayana took a sip of the tea. It was hot. Something in her chest slowly started to loosen. She got the room by the window. She lay down, but sleep wasn't happening. Rain ran down the glass. She stared at the ceiling, closed her eyes, opened them again. 3 years ago, that night came back. She never saw his face in the rain. It was too dark. Things were moving too fast. But she remembered the feel of his hand. Even as he was losing consciousness, he'd grabbed her wrist, like he was trying not to let go. That same hand had just wrapped a bandage around her wrist tonight. Ayana put her palm over the bandage. Her heart was doing something strange. Morning came. When Ayana opened her bedroom door, breakfast was laid out on the living room table. Woo-jin was nowhere. Just a note. Clean handwriting. Eat before you leave. Cars waiting downstairs. The driver will take you wherever you need to go. Ayana stood there staring at it. She wasn't over any of it. But she needed to eat. No matter how mad she was, an intern didn't skip meals. That was non-negotiable. She sat down and picked up the fork. Ayana raised her hand and pointed at the scar on Woo-jin's forearm. That scar. Her voice cracked. Woo-jin said nothing. His expression didn't move. But his eyes shifted, not hiding something, more like waiting. Ayana's finger hovered over the scar and stopped. Cold air sat still between the two of them. Outside, it was still raining. I know that scar. Ayana's voice was low. Woo-jin didn't get up from the couch. He closed the folder on his lap. She took a step closer. 3 years ago. St. Louis. It was pouring, a real storm. There was a man down at an intersection. He'd been shot. I was only a second-year med student at the time. I didn't have a clue what I was doing, but I couldn't just walk past him. Woo-jin still said nothing. Ayana kept going. That man had a scar on his left forearm. Same shape, same spot. I treated it myself. I never forget a patient. Long silence. Woo-jin looked at her. She looked back. He was the first one to look away. That had never happened before. He watched the rain on the window for a moment, then said, Good memory. Ayana's eyes went wide. That wasn't a denial. That was a confirmation. So, her voice wavered. That was you? Woo-jin turned back and looked at her. Yes. Ayana stood there and couldn't say anything for a second. Things were clicking into place fast inside her head. The wrong number. A man showing up in 10 minutes. A voice that took down her address before she even gave a name. Ginger tea. The bandage on her wrist. She asked quietly. Tonight wasn't an accident, was it? Woo-jin didn't answer. Not answering was the answer. Ayana's face went still. You knew from the start. She said it low but firm. You knew who I was, where I lived, even about Raymond. He didn't deny it. She stepped back. Then what about the phone call tonight? That wasn't an accident either. Woojin looked down for the first time. I changed the number. I wasn't expecting you to call. Ayana turned that over slowly. He didn't know the number, but he knew everything else. Her eyes went cold.
But you were watching. For 3 years?
Woojin looked up. Yes, short. Matter of fact, Ayana almost laughed. Nothing about this was funny. And you think that's normal? Watching someone like they're a lab rat? He didn't answer. She set her mug down on the table louder than she meant to. I'm grateful for tonight. I really am. But I'm leaving in the morning. Woojin stood. Ayana. First time he'd used her name. She didn't stop. Kept walking toward the hallway. Raymond isn't done. His voice followed her down the hall. He's not working alone. Her footsteps slowed. Didn't stop. She went into her room and closed the door. Clicked the lock. On the other side, his footsteps paused for a moment, then moved away. She lay down on the bed. Sleep wasn't coming. She stared at the ceiling, shut her eyes, opened them again. 3 years ago, that night. She never saw his face in the rain too dark, too fast. But the feeling of his hand, she remembered that. Even losing consciousness, he'd grabbed her wrist and held on, like he refused to let go. That hand had wrapped a bandage around her wrist tonight. Ayana pressed her palm over it, her heartbeat in a rhythm she didn't recognize. Morning? When she opened the door, breakfast was already on the table in the living room. No Woojin, just a note. Clean handwriting. Eat before you leave. Keys are by the front door. Driver will take you anywhere. Ayana looked at it for a long moment. She wasn't over it, but she had to eat. An intern didn't skip meals no matter how pissed off she was. She sat down and picked up the fork. When she got to the hospital, her fellow intern, Mia, grabbed her right away. Where were you last night? Your brother called looking for you. Ayana hesitated. My phone died. Mia looked at her wrist. It was wrapped in a bandage. What happened? I fell. Mia didn't look convinced, but she let it go. Ayana went into the locker room and pulled on her coat. She looked in the mirror. Same face as always. But her eyes were different. She could see it herself. Late afternoon, after rounds, while Ayana was going through charts, her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't pick up. She picked up. Ayana. Woojin. She walked to the end of the hallway and kept her voice low. How do you have this number? I had it. She exhaled. What do you want? He took a beat. Raymond got out this morning. Ayana's hand went tight around the clipboard. I filed a police report, Ayana said. You did. But he's got 10 lawyers behind him. She didn't say anything. Woojin kept going. Don't go home alone after your shift. She didn't answer. Ayana. His voice dropped just slightly. It wasn't an order. It was closer to a plea. The idea of Woojin Kang making a plea struck her as something that probably almost never happened. She hung up. Looked out the window. The afternoon light in New York was still bright, but somewhere in it a shadow had shifted. End of shift. Ayana pushed through the hospital's front doors and scanned the street. Nothing. Just a normal New York evening. She raised her hand to flag a cab and her phone buzzed. Her brother. She answered, relieved. Hey, I'm sorry I missed your call last night. I'm okay. But the voice on the other end wasn't her brother's. Low. Slow. Hey, Ayana. Your brother's right here. He says hi. Raymond. The blood drained from her face. What did you do to him? Raymond laughed. Nothing yet. Depends on what you do next. Ayana pulled in a breath. Don't shake. Raymond loved it when she shook. Tell me where to go. He gave her an address. A warehouse out in Queens. Come alone. You bring that guy in the black coat, your brother's gone. The call ended. Ayana stared at her phone. Woojin's number was right there. Her finger hovered over it, then kept scrolling. The cab headed for Queens. Ayana sat in the back with her eyes closed. She was scared. If she was being honest with herself, she was terrified. But her hands weren't shaking. Same as 3 years ago at that intersection in St. Louis. When she'd found him on the ground, she'd been scared out of her mind. But her hands had moved. The body knows things before the brain does. Same thing was happening now. She was already calculating. Exits. Cover. Numbers. Something in her that had nothing to do with med school had taken over. The warehouse was beat up and wide open. When Ayana pushed through the door, one flickering fluorescent light was doing its best to light the place. Her brother Marcus was tied to a post in the middle. Their eyes met. He shook his head. She shouldn't have come. She tried to look like she was okay. She wasn't. Raymond stepped out of the dark, gun in his hand. You actually showed up. By yourself? Ayana nodded. By myself. Good girl, Raymond said. He walked slow circles around her. Why'd you have to do me like that, Ayana? You really think I'm that bad? I liked you. She didn't respond. His eyes narrowed. Who is that guy anyway? Where'd you dig him up from? She said it quiet. Nobody. He's got nothing to do with this. Raymond smiled. Not a good smile. Nobody, but you spent the night at his place? She didn't react. Didn't look away. Raymond didn't like that. Raymond raised the gun. Not at her. At Marcus. Get on your knees, he told Ayana. She didn't move. His finger drifted toward the trigger. She looked at her brother. Marcus closed his eyes. Slowly, Ayana went down cold concrete against her knees. Raymond smiled, satisfied. And right at that moment, every single light in the warehouse went out. Don't move in the dark. Raymond fired one shot. Then silence. The kind that lasts just long enough to matter. And then a groan. Raymond's voice. The lights came back on. The warehouse looked different now. Raymond's crew was on the floor. Raymond himself was slumped against the wall on his knees. Woojin was standing in front of him. Not the black coat this time, dark shirt, sleeves rolled up. The scar on his left forearm was right there. Ayana knew that scar. He turned toward her. You hurt? She shook her head. Then she saw his side. Something dark and wet was spreading through his shirt. You got hit, Ayana said. He looked down. I'm fine. She was already on her feet. Dr. Moat. The fear from 2 minutes ago was gone. Sit down. Right now. He obeyed first time he'd done what she said without hesitation. She pulled up his shirt. The bullet had grazed his side, not through and through, but there was bleeding. She unwound her scarf and pressed it against the wound. Her hands were steady. This man communicates in something other than language. And she couldn't figure out why that was getting to her the way it was. Raymond got handed to the police. This time with evidence that 10 lawyers couldn't touch. One of Woojin's people gave a quiet explanation. Ayana didn't ask for more details. There are things you choose not to know. When they walked out of the warehouse, the night air hit cold. Woojin came and stood next to her. She kept looking straight ahead. Why'd you come? I told you not to. He said you didn't call me. So I handled it myself. Ayana almost laughed. Shouldn't have been funny. But here was a man who'd just taken a bullet to the ribs talking like that. You need to go to a hospital. Woojin shook his head. I'm fine. Ayana looked at him straight. I'm the doctor. I decide if you're fine. He stared at her for a second, then closed his mouth. He'd lost that one and he knew it. Ayana cut her eyes over to Marcus. He got the message and stepped away, sharp as always. Woojin's guys gave them space too. Under the streetlight in front of the warehouse, it was just the two of them. Your hands are freezing. Kinda hard to feel anything else. She paused, then kept going. Her ears felt warm. Done. She closed the kit. I did this 3 years ago too. Back then, I didn't even know your name. He said quietly, I know. She looked up. Even back then? He nodded. I wasn't unconscious. I heard everything. You were telling me it was going to be okay. Your voice was shaking the whole time. Ayana was quiet for a moment. That night came back, holding on to a stranger's hand in the middle of a storm, willing him to stay. Are you mad at me? Woojin asked. Ayana looked up at the sky. No stars over New York, too many lights for that. Yeah, I'm still mad. Watching somebody for 3 years without telling them that's not normal. He nodded, didn't argue. But, she said, I should be mad about tonight, too. You coming here? She stopped. He waited. She gave a small laugh. I don't know. It's weird. Weird how, Woojin said. She looked at him. Really looked this time. Dark eyes. They looked cold, but they weren't. You don't scare me. That's the weird part. He didn't say anything. She looked away first. Maybe that's the part that should scare me. He said quietly, You're allowed to be scared. You're allowed to run. She turned back. And if I do? Woojin looked at her wrist, the bandage the one he'd wrapped the night before. He put his hand over it. Careful, then I'll find you. Ayana almost laughed. Again? He nodded. Again. She held that answer for a while. The night breeze moved between them. She didn't pull her wrist back. She just let it be. That was enough. Don't go where it's dangerous. Don't trust strangers. Don't reach out in the dark. But what if Ayana had walked right past that man lying in the rain at that intersection 3 years ago? She'd been scared and reached out anyway. She'd dialed a wrong number and it had led her exactly where she was supposed to be. He was dangerous and he was the safest thing she'd found. The world wasn't just right and wrong. Sometimes a wrong number gets you exactly where you're supposed to be. She buttoned her coat up all the way, opened the door. Morning light was spilling in from the end of the hallway. She knew now the light you find in the darkest place is the kind that stays.